What's up YouTube, this is DWS Darius and this is going to be the update on my reef tank, and in this video I'm going to discuss my equipment. Okay, so I should have posted this video sometime last week because that was according to my schedule. I was going to post in the middle of last week to post a new update on this week. However, I got caught up last week. I was working 7 days in a row and I really had no time. The time I did have, I used it to clean my tanks. So I had no time to make a video, but today I'll bring you guys a little update on just all my equipment on my 40-gallon reef tank. Now, before I get started into that, let me let you guys know that this is my first time recording with my new camera. This is a Canon T6i. Now, in my previous videos I was using the T3i. And this right here is the T6i, and maybe you might not notice a difference, but it is easier to handle and there is a slight difference. So I'm just letting you guys know this is my first video with my Canon T6i. Okay YouTube, so back to the reef. Now for those of you who don't know about this tank, you can click on my last video where I discussed the fish, the inverts, and all the corals in this tank. And speaking of coral, the Xenia has grown even more since my last video, and that video was last week, and also it's starting to spread crazily, and that's what I feared, because this coral is known to grow kind of crazy. You can see that piece in the back, you can see a piece up here, you can see a piece back there, and you can see some over there. Now that's because I tried to frag it and I set it all on the rock and now it's blown all over. But pretty soon, right after this video, I'm going to do a water change, so I'm going to put it all back on top of that main rock. But yeah, for those of you who don't know much about this tank, make sure you check out that video. The link is above. So yeah, now I'm going to discuss to you guys what's keeping this 40-gallon tank running. Okay, so first off, with my light system. Now choosing a light for this tank was just extremely difficult because there's just so many different options, so many different choices, LEDs, fluorescents, and just so many different branches within. And I don't regret making this choice. This right here is my LED light. It is a Galaxy Hydro. Now this light I bought off of where was it? Off of Amazon. It was $125, which isn't bad compared to some of the other prices on some of the more known brands. But this light is pretty decent. It does the job. It keeps the coral alive. And it's even strong enough to produce tons of algae. Now you can't really see it because I have the blue light on, but when I turn off the blue light, you can see that the rocks are just filled with algae. So this light is pretty strong and it keeps the corals nice and strong. As you can see, my Xenia is growing and my mushrooms are open. So this light is pretty decent, and the good thing about it, the price isn't too crazy. Now as I showed you, it has the two options. You can have all blue. This is what I use to wake up the fish, the all blue light. You can have all white, which really isn't all white. You have a little bit of orange and green and just that little mixed color. But yeah, this light for $125 wasn't really a bad choice. It really has a decent spread of my tank. It's 16 inches and my tank is 3 feet long, 36 inches. So it has a decent spread. So that's what I'm using as far as lights. No regrets up there. Okay, so after lighting, my next choice was to choose a filter. And as you can see, my choice was an Aquaclear 70 filter. Now this is running on a 40-gallon tank, and it's pretty much doing a decent job. I've had it for 2 months, no problems. So when it came to filtration, I had 3 choices: the hang on the back, the canister, or a sump. Now a lot of people push towards a sump. However, I don't have any experience with sumps, and I pretty much said that I got a lot more learning to do. So I wasn't going to add a sump to the list of what I had to learn. So I just went simple and got a hang on the back. And I really don't regret this because it produces a lot of flow, which is good for your corals. And it keeps the water really decent. So yeah, that's a good choice as far as filtration in my opinion. And right next to that, I have a protein skimmer. Now I did a lot of research and I pretty much just concluded that it would be good to keep my water as crystal and as pristine as possible, so I got the protein skimmer, and as you can see, it produces a decent amount of scum, if you want to call it, every week. I'm about to do my water change now, so I'm going to empty it, but it'll be back full again next week. So yeah, that protein skimmer just takes out those small particles, and I think that really has an effect on this tank as well. Okay, so after I took care of my lights and my filtration, the next thing that I thought was important to look at was my flow. Now, anyone looking for a reef, when you do your research, one of the things you will always come across is flow, because certain corals need lots of flow, certain corals need a little flow, but at the end of the day you need flow in your reef tank, and the best thing to bring that flow is your circulation pumps. And I'm using a Hydor circulation pump. I forgot how many gallons per hour, I just know it was the second from the highest, and right next to it is my Hydor Heater. But yeah, I allowed a heater to be next to the flow pump. I'm not sure if it really has a difference, but just to get blown around in heat, I really don't think it would be much of a difference if the heater was on the other side, but just I put it over there for the sake of circulation, I guess. But yeah, it's important to have good circulation in your reef tank, so what I'm using is the Hydor circulation pump. Okay, so that was a little look at the equipment that's inside the tank. Now I also have a lot of equipment that are in the cabinets and shelves that I find very important. Number one being my refractometer. Now this thing helps me to measure my salt levels just to make sure it's accurate. And this thing is very important. I do a reading twice a week just to make sure that level stays the same, because you know, with the lights burning all day, it can produce a lot of evaporation, and when the water evaporates, that salt stays in the tank and the salt water goes up, and then you got more salty water. So you want to make sure you stay on top of those salt levels. And then after that, I have my portable Tds unit. Now what this does is allows me to measure my RODI water unit, my RODI water that I make from my RODI water unit. Getting a little tongue tied, but yeah, this is used to make sure that any RODI water I make, that it comes out with 0 ppms, because we want our water for the reef tank to be as clean and as free from extra stuff as possible. Okay, so after that, I have a little standard saltwater test kit, as you see right there. Right here I have me a saltwater coral dip, and this is what I use when all my new corals come in. Give them a nice dip to make sure they're not carrying any hitchhikers. Now behind me there's a 35-gallon garbage can, which I use to store my RODI water. I use a Barracuda RODI water unit that is stored away, and I don't want to put it out right now. But yeah, that's what I'm using. It does a pretty decent job. I've used it already about 5 times and still producing 0 ppm water, so that's great. And yeah, I store my produced RODI water in a 35-gallon garbage can, and from that garbage can I have 4 5-gallon buckets, which is salt water. So I have 4 5-gallon buckets stored away, which is salt water for when I do water changes, and then a 35-gallon garbage can I have water for refills and just for making that salt water, pure RODI water. So yeah, it's important just to keep those things on hand, because you never know when you need to do an emergency water change or anything like that. Okay YouTube, so that's just a little look at some of the equipment that I can list off the top of my head, the things that I find most important when keeping a reef tank. Now I'm sorry because this video was rushed. I came home today and I'm tired after work, so I really wanted to get this video over with. I didn't put as much effort as I would have if I had more time, so I apologize for that. But you get the idea of what I use to run my reef tank. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you want to subscribe, don't hesitate. And thank you all for watching, and as always, just continue to show that kindness that you all show. And I think I'm talking too much, so goodbye.